After Hurricane Katrina made landfall in 2005, Louisiana's congressional delegation had to fight for funds to make people whole. There were actually some in D.C. who questioned if the city should even rebuild, but eventually billions of dollars flowed into the state.
As we continue our year-long series, Faces of Katrina, we focus on a freshman congressman thrust into the fold who later turned out to be one of the state's key players in disaster recovery. Here's WDSU anchor Travis Mackle.
After the levees broke and New Orleans, as well as surrounding parishes like Jefferson, St. Bernard, and Plaquemines were filled with water, elected leaders knew the efforts to save lives and get people back into their homes would be great. The most challenging time in their careers.
I'm Bobby Jindal. I was a freshman congressman when Hurricane Katrina hit.
Only 34 years old at the time and in office less than 9 months, in 2005, Bobby Jindal represented Louisiana's 1st Congressional District, a seat now held by Majority Leader Steve Scalise, and a district devastated by the storm. Neighborhoods like Lakeview in New Orleans and neighboring Jefferson Parish.
So we jumped in a car and drove into the worst hit areas.
And once there, one story sticks out involving former Jefferson Parish Sheriff Harry Lee.
So people are on the rooftops, people are still, people are clinging to, for their lives as the water is rising. So we go see Harry, and he's in this makeshift command center, and he is furious. I just hear him, you know how Harry is, bigger than life guy. He's physically a big guy, yelling into his phone, and he's just furious. I say, Harry, Sheriff, what's going on here? And he says, look, there are people in the water. There are not enough first responders. So when the word had gone out, people from all over Louisiana had shown up with their boats. These are just regular people. This is the origins of the Cajun Navy, right? These are just people with, regular people with their boats trying to rescue people. And some idiot, some federal bureaucrat was stopping them, asking them for proof of insurance, proof of registration, looking for paperwork. And Harry just can't stand this. So he tells people, he's on the radio telling people, just go around the corner, ignore the federal bureaucrat, just go around the corner. And I tell him, I said, Harry, that makes sense to me. This is just idiotic. If people are here to save lives, let them go do it. And before I know it, Harry's yelling in the phone. He goes, I got Congressman Bobby Jindal here. He agrees with me. He says you can come arrest us both. And I'm like, wait. Who did we just offer to go to jail to? But what I love about that story is if you watch the national news, you hear about the looters. You hear about the incompetence. You hear about the fraud. You don't hear enough about brave Louisianians who are sitting at home. They hear their neighbors are in danger. Their first instinct is to get in the truck, get their boat, and go do something about it.
Hundreds of billions eventually flowed into the state, but getting the money, an uphill battle.
How hard was the fight politically in D.C. to get Louisiana and New Orleans, and Metro New Orleans, what it deserved?
Look, it was tough, not only with the politicians, but other people who had no clue they were opining on us. People that had never been down here saying, oh, you shouldn't live down here. Oh, it's your fault. Not realizing it was federal levees and it was the federal flood walls that broke. Not realizing that we produce so much of the nation's seafood, oil and gas, that they need us, that this is not just for Louisiana, it's for the rest of the country. The Mississippi is such a powerful economic engine, but not only that, that we're American citizens, and we deserve to have the right to rebuild. We weren't asking for charity, we were just asking for the chance to rebuild our homes.
Jindal's political star rose in the storm's aftermath, so much so, he was easily elected governor in 2007 and re-elected in 2011.
I think after Katrina, I think that the people of Louisiana looked around and said, you know what, we ranked 49th and 50th on so many of these lists. After watching what happened with Katrina, maybe it is time for a change.
And his time as the state's leader, controversial. While he points to positives, like UMC being built in the city, the NBA franchise staying, and giving families vouchers for private schools. Critics contend budget issues consistently plagued his administration and cuts to some health care needs, as well as pushing national party politics, were problems. But
the real metric is for 8 years, we had more people coming into the state than leaving the state. We actually grew the population. Travis, that didn't happen before or after I was in office.
Now 54 and still living in Baton Rouge, his 3 kids all in college or recent graduates. Jindal does financial consulting to large corporations and works as a healthcare advisor to government groups. But his ties to the state still run deep.
Do you think we're in a better spot 20 years after Katrina?
Absolutely. I think that Louisiana's future is extremely bright. I still think we have things we need to improve and work on, but absolutely.
After Katrina, from probably 2005 through 2015, there was this push to help Louisiana, to help New Orleans. And somebody told me they feel like that has faded. Do you think that's perception or reality?
Well, look, I think we harnessed that sentiment for things like coastal restoration and flood protection. But I think that, look, we as Americans, we have short attention spans. And there have been other challenges, other disasters. They had the wildfires in California. You've had other things happen since then. So I think there's some truth to that. Look, I think Americans are a generous people, and I think that they'll help their neighbors when they're in need. But as important as Katrina was to us, I do think it's faded a little bit off the national spotlight.
Bobby Jindal, the freshman congressman who became governor, one of the many faces of Hurricane Katrina.
The big takeaway for me is that the people were strong, the people were resilient.
And in 2005, Louisiana's congressional delegation worked to get money and resources for people who were impacted by Katrina.
Our senators were Mary Landrieu and David Vitter, who was in his first year in the Senate. Landrieu remained in office until she lost a re-election bid in 2014. Now she splits her time between D.C. and New Orleans. Vitter lost a bid for governor in 2015 and didn't seek re-election in 2016 to the Senate. He works as a lobbyist and lives in New Orleans.
Louisiana's 2nd congressional district, which covers much of New Orleans, was represented by Bill Jefferson when Katrina hit. Jefferson was convicted on bribery-related crimes in 2009 and jailed. He declined an interview for Faces of Katrina Stories. And Louisiana's 3rd congressional district, which in 2005 covered hard-hit areas like St. Bernard and Plaquemines Parish, was represented by Democrat Charlie Melancau. He remained in Congress through 2010 and is living in Napoleonville.